Meilleure performance pour l'équipe. Écoute, on s'en cachera pas. L'année passée, on n'a pas fait les séries. Puis cette année, on veut faire les séries. Puis ça va être important que moi.
You know, I spent more than 20 years in the NHL. I won Stanley Cups, Vezina trophies, set records people still talk about. That's what fans remember. The numbers, the trophies, the banners, and the rafters. But now when I look back, what stays with me the most are the players who made me work for every single one of those wins. Night after night, save after save. When you're in the middle of your career, you don't think about admiration. You're focused on stopping the puck and winning the game. With some distance, you start to see it clearly. Not the greatest players of all time, the ones who mattered most to me, the ones who made me better, and now I can finally talk about them. I'll start by telling you about the first one. Number 5, I'm going with Keith Tkachuk. When people talk about Keith Tkachuk, they usually start with the goals. Over 500 career goals, more than 1,000 points, power forward, heavy shot, great hands around the net. All of that is true. But that's not why I admired him. I admired him because he never let me feel comfortable. Not once. Every time we played against him, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, I knew exactly where he was going to be. Right in front of me, not drifting, not circling, standing his ground. He didn't care how big the moment was or who was wearing the jersey in goal. His game didn't change. Keith didn't try to beat me with finesse. He beat me with presence. Screens that didn't move. Tips that came from angles you couldn't practice. Rebounds that disappeared into skates and bodies before you even realized the puck was loose. As a goaltender, vision is everything, and he took that away better than almost anyone I faced. There were games where I felt like I was playing blind. You know, the shot is coming, you know, the play is developing, but you're reacting a half second late because you're guessing instead of seeing. That's exhausting. That's pressure that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Keith finished his career with 6 seasons of 30 goals or more. He was a Hart Trophy finalist, a key part of international teams. But what mattered to me was consistency. He brought the same battle every night. Regular season, playoffs, early October or late April, there was no switch. And the thing I respected most was that he never crossed the line for me. He played hard, he played physical, but he played honest. If he got a rebound, he earned it. If he took my eyes away, it was because he won that space. There were nights I'd make 30 saves and walk out of the rink feeling like I'd been in a fight. Not because of the shots, because of him. Because every save felt incomplete until the puck was frozen and he was pushed out of the crease. Keith Tkachuk didn't make me question my ability. He made me respect the grind. He reminded me that goaltending isn't always about spectacular saves. Sometimes it's about surviving shifts, whistles, and traffic. That's why he's number 5. Not because he scored the most goals on me, but because he made every single save matter. Number 4, I'm going with Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa was never the loudest player on the ice. He didn't celebrate much. He didn't try to intimidate you. But every time I saw him jump over the boards, I knew the game was about to slow down in a way that was dangerous for a goaltender. People remember Hossa as a complete player. Over 1,100 career points. 3 Stanley Cups, Selke Trophy winner, Olympic medals, all deserved, but what made me admire him had nothing to do with trophies. Hossa played with patience, and patience is a problem for a goalie. Most shooters want something from you right away. They want you to bite, to move early, to give them an angle. Hossa didn't rush anything. He carried the puck just long enough to make you doubt your positioning, just long enough to make you shift your weight. By the time the shot came, it was already too late to adjust. What made him special was that he could score in different ways without changing his body language. Wrist shot, snap shot, backhand, same posture, same calm. As a goalie, you read shoulders, hands, timing. With Hossa, those reads lied to you. There were games where I felt in control against the rest of the lineup. Then Hossa would touch the puck and suddenly the play felt heavier, slower, more deliberate. He forced me to stay down longer than I wanted, to hold my edges instead of attacking the shooter. He wasn't trying to beat me with speed. He beat me by making me wait. And waiting is dangerous, because when you wait, you think, and when you think, you lose rhythm. Hossa finished multiple seasons with 30 goals. He was trusted in every situation, power play, penalty kill, final minute protecting a lead. That tells you something about how his coaches saw him. But from my side of the ice, what I respected was how predictable he refused to be. He didn't need chaos. He didn't need traffic. Sometimes it was just him, the puck, and one quiet decision that forced me to guess. Marian Hossa didn't overwhelm me. He wore me down shift by shift, game by game, and by the end of the night, you felt like you'd been thinking the entire time instead of reacting. That's why he's number 4. Not because he embarrassed me, but because he made me play the game on his terms. Number 3, I'm going with Joe Sakic. Joe Sakic didn't need much time with the puck, and for a goaltender, that's terrifying. People talk about his leadership, the Cups, the Conn Smythe, the over 600 goals, and more than 1,600 points. All of that is earned. But what made me admire Sakic was much simpler than his resume. He punished hesitation. Most shooters give you something to read. A shoulder drop, a stick pullback, a rhythm. Sakic didn't. His release came from nothing. 1 second the puck was on his stick, the next it was already past you. Clean, no drama. There were nights against Colorado where I felt sharp, square, balanced, seeing everything, and then Sakic would step into the zone, and suddenly all that confidence meant nothing. You couldn't challenge him too aggressively because he changed the angle with one small adjustment. You couldn't stay deep because his shot was too quick and too precise. What I respected most was his decision-making. He didn't force plays. If the shot wasn't there, he moved the puck. If it was, he ended the play immediately. That kind of clarity puts pressure on a goalie. You don't get second chances. You don't get resets. Sakic scored over 50 goals in a season. He won a Hart Trophy. He was captain of a team filled with stars and still felt like the calmest man on the ice. From my crease, that calm translated into danger. Because calm shooters don't rush. And shooters who don't rush control the goalie. I remember games where the puck barely touched him all night, and yet I never relaxed. Because you knew one touch could be the one that mattered. One half step late, one red off, and it was over. He didn't beat me with power, he beat me with efficiency. No wasted movement, no wasted shots. Everything had a purpose. Joe Sakic made me respect the value of decisiveness. He reminded me that great scorers don't need volume, they need timing. And when timing is perfect, the goalie is always the one chasing. That's why he's number 3. Not because he overwhelmed me, but because he made every moment count. Number 2, I'm going with Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby came into the league when I was already established, already comfortable in my game, already trusting my habits. He was younger, faster, and playing a different kind of hockey than what I had grown up facing. People talk about his trophies first. Multiple Stanley Cups, Hart Trophy, Conn Smythe, Olympic gold medals, over 1,500 points and counting. All of that is undeniable. But none of that explains why I admired him the way I did. What made Crosby special from my crease wasn't just skill, it was awareness. He saw things developing before they fully existed. Plays that felt unfinished to everyone else already had a shape in his head. That's dangerous for a goaltender because we rely on patterns. We read habits. Crosby didn't give you stable patterns to hold on to. Against him, the puck was never really loose. Even in traffic, even along the boards, he knew exactly where it was going to end up. And more importantly, he knew where I was standing. He attacked space, not just the net. He pulled me out of position without shooting, without deking, just by forcing decisions I didn't want to make yet. What I respected most was how comfortable he was in chaos. Scrums in front of the net didn't slow him down. They made him better. Rebounds, deflections, broken plays, those were moments where most players rushed. Crosby didn't. He stayed calm, strong on his edges, strong on the puck, and patient enough to wait for the smallest opening. So from the crease, it felt like he was always a step ahead of the moment. There were games where I felt sharp against the rest of the lineup, controlling rebounds, freezing pucks, dictating pace. Then Crosby would get involved and suddenly nothing felt settled anymore. Shots came from unexpected places. Passes arrived faster than anticipated. Plays didn't end cleanly. They lingered. And lingering plays wear a goalie down mentally. Crosby didn't need to beat me clean to make his presence felt. Sometimes it was a rebound kicked into traffic. Sometimes it was a quick pass across the slot that forced a desperation push. Sometimes it was just holding the puck a fraction longer than expected, forcing me to commit before I wanted to. That constant pressure is exhausting because it never lets you reset. What I admired most was that he didn't cheat the game. He earned every inch. He fought for position. He absorbed contact. He stayed involved even when nothing showed up on the score sheet. That's something a goaltender notices. You respect players who don't disappear when things get tight. Sidney Crosby didn't take away my confidence. He tested my discipline. He forced me to stay engaged every second he was on the ice. No shortcuts, no moments off, just complete attention. That's why he's number 2. Not because of the goals, not because of the trophies, but because he demanded my full focus every time he stepped over the boards. Number 1, I'm going with Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel Datsyuk was the player who took control away from me more consistently than anyone else I faced. Not with power, not with speed, not with volume. He did it by making the game feel unfamiliar. When he was on the ice, nothing happened the way you expected it to happen, and for a goaltender, that's the hardest thing to deal with. People remember the highlights, the shootout moves, the steals, the no-look plays, the reputation of being one of the most skilled players of his generation. Over 900 career points, Stanley Cups, Selke Trophy winner, all of that is real. But from my crease, that wasn't the problem. The problem was his timing. He never rushed a moment, and he never wasted one either. Against Datsyuk, I couldn't rely on habits. My depth in the crease didn't feel safe. Challenging shooters didn't feel smart. Playing the puck felt dangerous. He watched everything. He waited for the smallest imbalance, a stick a little too far out, a skate that shifted weight just slightly, and the moment you corrected it, he had already made a different decision. What made him different was that he attacked the mind before the body. With most players, you react to the puck. With Datsyuk, you reacted to possibilities. Fakes that didn't exist, passes that might come, shots that never did. As a goalie, you're trained to simplify the game. Datsyuk complicated it without ever looking rushed. There were games where he didn't score, and I still felt exhausted because every time he touched the puck, I had to reset everything. My angle, my balance, my read of the play. He forced me to stay patient longer than was comfortable, and patience can be a trap when the other guy controls the rhythm. I admired how quiet his game was. No wasted movement, no emotional swings. He didn't need chaos to create danger. Sometimes it was just a small delay, one extra glide, one subtle change of speed that forced me to commit early. And once you commit early against a player like that, you're chasing the play instead of controlling it. What I respected most was that he never relied on mistakes. He created them, not by overpowering you, but by inviting you to make a choice and then punishing that choice. That's a different level of hockey intelligence, and it stays with you long after the game is over. Pavel Datsyuk didn't make me feel beaten. He made me feel exposed. He showed me the limits of control. He reminded me that even the most structured goaltending game can be undone by creativity and patience. That's why he's number 1. Not because he scored the most goals on me, but because he changed the way I thought about the game every time I faced him. When I look back at these 5 names now, I don't see rivals. I see chapters. Each one represents a different lesson the game forced me to learn. They didn't all challenge me the same way, but they all demanded something from me. Focus, patience, discipline, adaptation. They made sure I never got comfortable, and that's a gift in this league. Admiration for me was never about fear or frustration. It was about recognition. Recognizing that the other guy across the ice was pushing you toward your limits, sometimes without scoring, sometimes without making noise, but always making you think. Those are the players who stay with you long after the stats fade. I didn't become the goalie I was by shutting everyone down easily. I became that goalie because of nights that didn't feel easy at all, because of moments when control slipped just enough to remind me I still had work to do. These players didn't define my losses, they shaped my standards. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't want it any other way. That's what admiration looks like from the crease.